Hello, hello, hello. This is Rene Manfre with What's Your Passion Podcast. And this is just another podcast where I always try to get the best people on that's going to give information, share knowledge, and just insight on things that are going on in the world, the country. My passion is always really just serving people in all different areas. My name is Rene Manfre. I'm your host. I have two great guests on tonight. One of my partners, Ed Colomb. Ed's been in the truck parking industry for many years, the casino truck stop building and video gaming, so many different areas. Ed has become great friends with Anthony Petitte. Anthony has been in the truck parking industry for many years. He's actually built some companies. And I believe, based off my understanding, you built one of the first truck parking apps or parking companies, and he exited from that company. And now we have the pleasure of working with Anthony and his group with Finpark. So tonight is really just a special night, just to kind of share some insight on what's going on with the truck parking industry, understanding some of the different mechanics that, from Anthony's perspective, what he sees and why he really kind of started this business up again. So Anthony, I do appreciate you coming on tonight, short notice. Again, I watched a lot of your different videos in the past. I've watched some different stories. It was really interesting that I think that you started this business concept, like one of the first ones to kind of start it. I don't know how many years ago, but it kind of grew. And then from there you exited and you had to stay out of the industry for a couple of years for some non-compete. But you were itching to get back into the industry. And I believe Finpark kind of got you back in. Is that correct? Is that somewhere where we are?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much spot on, Rene. First of all, thank you for having me on your show. I do appreciate it. I mean, so myself and then my business partner, Joshua Walls, who's not here, we pioneered the truck parking spot aggregator marketplace. We're the first marketplace really that ever existed. But most importantly, even before I got into the world of technology, if you will, I started off as an operator myself. I started off helping my late uncle, I should say, to manage his yard and then bring drivers and the driver visibility over to really start parking at his yard. And then in addition to that, we were trying to work out different angles where we could help grow his business and become more profitable.
Interesting. So it all started with your uncle, correct? So he already had a truck parking location, like a truck stop or some sort?
Yeah, he had a truck parking yard in the south side of Chicago, where I'm originally from.
Okay.
And he, like I said, even back in, what was this? Honestly, 10, 11 years ago, there was really no visibility of where truck parking locations were across the country. They had existed. In fact, they've been existing for about 30 years. But there's no visibility as to where they are. There wasn't any marketing. There wasn't any brand recognition or awareness. Nobody had a clue where these secure truck parking facilities were located.
So how did the truckers back then, did they just kind of I guess, drive and they were familiar with whether it's a Love's or Pilot or some type of truck stops? Is that how they kind of knew, or they just kind of gradually just kind of talk to each other about, hey, you need to check out this place? Is that how it was at one time? Or apps?
The trucking, I guess the trucking network to find parking, not secure parking. So there's two different segments. There's just the regular truck stop model, which entails the fuel pumps, the convenience stores, and then has parking as complementary or value added. Okay. And then there's the other model, which essentially I pioneered, and then eventually my partner Joshua, which was the secure truck parking model. Secure truck parking model deals with an entirely different aspect. So you deal with high value loads. So any carrier that is hauling some sort of freight that's high commodity, that could be TVs or appliances, we were taking care of that freight. The other freight that was maybe dry van goods, maybe let's say, for example, peanuts or toilet paper, it doesn't matter where they park because it wasn't as high for cargo thefts. So they would go ahead and park at those truck stops.
Okay. And then through that period of time, were you a tech person at the time, or did you and your partner, y'all kind of just came across the way of creating this app for the truckers? Is that how it kind of just came up somewhere through a conversation, or?
Interestingly enough, no. I wasn't in the tech space at all. I was actually in the recruiting space. I was at the time, and I'm trying to go all the way back now here at night. Let me see. At the time, I was recruiting for a company in downtown Chicago, doing nothing related to transportation, logistics, or supply chain. And I had gotten a call from my uncle one night, and I believe now we're talking about 2013, 2014. And he said, "Hey, I have this idea of building this truck parking yard in Chicago, in the south side of Chicago, which is from south side to north side, probably about 30, 40 minutes in distance." He said, "Well, would you come and look at the property?" And at the time, it was just a plot of land in the back of a factory. And I said, "Sure, I'll take a look at it, but I don't know anything about what you're trying to do." A year later, he said, "Okay, well, now I got the operation. It's built. It's ready to serve drivers, but I have no idea, one, how to get the drivers, or how are the drivers going to know I'm here, because my parking lot is essentially behind a factory. It's not visible to the main road." And that's where I came in. I was like, this is interesting. I don't know really how to help you because I'm not a technologist and I'm not a programmer. But I think I have some ideas, and that's where the light bulb kind of turned on, so to speak, like on the cartoons, right? And I was like, bing, I have this opportunity to now go ahead and help my uncle create something special. And that was just the very, very early days of just an idea, not even the business yet.
So what did you, I guess, what did you do? What did you, like, you were a recruiter, so you didn't really understand technology or an app or anything of that nature at the time, right? But you had this location, you had the idea. So how'd you kind of grow into that, the next phases?
So for the next phase, I did some research on the marketplace itself. How could I build something? How could I even start a website, for example, using the knowledge that I knew of websites, right? And how could I leverage that website to help my uncle? And so I figured that if I create a website, and by the way, it was called truckpark.com at the time. I could use that website in almost like the old school sales model, right? Smile and dial, where people go to the website, they would search for truck parking. We would rank on the Google search pages, and we would optimize the website so much to that drivers that search for truck parking and search for that specific keyword search would find us on Google or on Bing. And the other side of it was, if we put my uncle's location on the website, maybe I could provide visibility to the drivers that have no idea where, just because the address showed the factory, I would actually on the website I would write in the description, you have to go around the factory, take a left at so and so street, and then there you go. You would have the truck stop, or excuse me, the truck parking location available to you. And that's what really started everything. And then we actually started getting traction. And again, another light bulb turned on. I said, it'd be really interesting because I know where the market's going, and it's going to this. So what if we transferred from the website to the phone and eventually automate the entire process? And that's where Truck Park started. From truckpark.com, which was just a website, to an application where drivers can find, reserve, and pay for parking all in real time.
Wow. And then from there, so how did you get the how did you really get it out to truckers? Like, how did you get it to where truckers knew, or was it just searching? They were just searching for parking, and it would pop up, or were you going out there to certain truckers and telling them about the product, or getting it on social media?
So let's call that another hurdle or barrier to entry. We built out this app. We actually got funded by a local dev shop in Chicago that not only gave us about $500,000 to build the application, but also additional, I believe, $150,000 or $200,000 to actually quit our jobs and work on this full time.
Wow.
And that was kind of the day one, maybe brainstorming session is, okay, great. We have this app. It looks really great. We spent about 9 months building it, but how in the world are we going to touch drivers? Because none of us in this room know anything about transportation. There was one guy who, I forgot his title. Maybe he was like an operations director. He had a background in trucking, but everybody else who sat in that room had no idea where to go. So that was our largest hurdle in the beginning. But to find the solution, we did start doing social media. We did social media. We actually met in the early days. We would just find these truck drivers on Twitter or Facebook, and we would ask to meet with them. So they were all local truck drivers from Chicago. We would meet with them. We would buy them a coffee, and we would ask them their largest pain points. And we talked to about 100. I would say 85% of the drivers would tell us that truck parking was one of the largest issues. And that's kind of what, I guess, accelerated everything, where we would tell the driver, we have this app, you can find and reserve parking in real time. And the drivers would be, stunned. Like they've never seen anything. Nothing existed at the time. So having an app, an automated process, hands off for everybody else to just go on, book their parking, find their spot, get navigated to that location was a blessing for them.
And y'all were charging at that time. Y'all charging? How much were y'all charging per night? Or
so we always based our model off of the parking lot owner. So when you look at the marketplace, it's not just the app for the drivers, but it's also bridging the two market segments together. The parking lot owner who owns the yard, and then also the truck driver who needs to find parking because they're running against so many different variables, traffic, weather. In 2017, the U.S. government mandated the federal restriction law, which was hours of service, saying the driver can only drive at the time in 2017. It was 11 hours drive time and 8 hours rest break. They've extended it in 2021 to 14-hour drive time and 8-hour rest break. But before it was only 11 hours. Drivers couldn't be on the road for a while. They had to figure out a plan to pull over. And we had to figure that out in 4 years for the driver. So it wasn't until really and we could talk about this later, until my exit in 21 is when the market flipped and it's like, okay, we're going to give the drivers a little bit more leniency. And so they can find safe and secure parking.
So that had to increase in 2017, 18, when these changes came, did that increase your business? Did you see a huge increase because of that requirement?
Yeah, I would say that. Okay, so let's go backwards for a second. Historically, truck drivers would fill out log books, and the log books would actually, it would just be pencil and paper, and you would submit it in like a copy machine, really submit it to the FSCSA, which is the Federal Motor Safety Carrier Association, and say, hey, I drove my X hours of time, but who knew if that was real, because a lot of them would just fudge the log books. So the federal mandate actually did help us, yes, to answer your question, because it was telling drivers it was enforcing drivers, it's a better word, forcing drivers that they had to pull over a certain amount of time. But at the time, there was nobody else in competition. It was just us. So we would say, hey, listen, I understand that this is a pain in the ass to you, really. You don't want to do this. You're so used to logging, paper and pencil. But we're going to save you guys the frustration by giving you an easy opportunity just to park and book your spot right on this app. And it was that simple. Now, to go back to your other question is like, what do we charge the rates? Well, the operators, the parking lot owners, would actually dictate the cost. They would have their own business set up. My first parking operator outside of my uncle, I rolled up to his location and I noticed that there was a big trailer. I walked in his trailer and he had paper literally stacked from floor to the ceiling. Okay. And I said, well, what is all this paper, and what are you doing with all, these files? And he had cabinets and cabinets full of paperwork. And he said, honestly, this is everything for the truck yard. I have to deal with capturing the data somehow. So I have to ask them their MC number, their DOT number, their names, in the whole 9 yards. Then I have to figure out how I'm going to get payment from them. So I have to get a check, essentially. So, and I said, well, is that a good process for you? Well, I had this is the first parking lot owner. He told me, actually, about 60% of the time the checks bounce. So I was about to say money. and
Right.
I'm losing money fast, and this business is not going to be very sustainable for me if I keep going this direction. And I said, well, I have a solution for you. We built an app that also works for the parking lot owner, and that application is going to allow you to automate, streamline your entire process. All that paperwork, just burn it. Like, you don't need that anymore because I'm giving you a cloud-based solution. You don't need to use checks anymore either. I built in on a payment system, ACH banking as well as credit card. And he's like, this is like out of this world. How do I jump on that?
Sorry.
Right? The last part of it, and then I'll digress, I promise. The last part of it is the parking lot owner would dictate the rate. So their rate would be $30 overnight, $250 monthly. We would just show that specific rate on our platform, and then just like an Uber or any other parking provider for cars, we would take our brokerage fee, and we took 25%.
So you kind of created. I tell Ed this all the time when I talk to truck companies. We're the Airbnb. You're the Airbnb for truckers. It's just an incredible concept.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
You're just providing the location where people can search, see what's there, see what amenities, if they have a shower, restroom, food, things of that nature. Click it, pay it, and they're booked.
Just simple. Yep. Absolutely.
So that must have been exciting. Just that whole, I guess, 7 or 8 years, and then so now you get to the point where I'm assuming the company's growing. I'm not sure how many drivers did you have on the app at that time, or how many locations approximation, or
I could tell you that probably, let's say we officially launched the application in 2019. I would say in 2020, and again now getting into the pandemic, things were very dicey. Nobody knew what direction anything was going to go. Everything was starting to get shut down, especially in states like Illinois. But at the time, we probably had maybe 5,000, 6,000 daily active users. Is truck drivers booking overnight parking on the application. We didn't even this wasn't even the days yet when we got into the long-term side, which is some of the contract work you would get from some of the larger shippers or retailers. But this was strictly just overnight parking. And then in addition to that, we had probably, I would say, maybe 80 or 90 secure truck parking facilities across North America.
Wow. And so how old are you, Anthony?
I'm sorry, what?
If you don't mind me asking, how old are you? You look like you're in your early 30s. Or
yes, I'm 32 now. So when I started my business, I was 25. Actually, I was younger. I was technically like 24 or 25.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So from here now, 2020, we had the pandemic, things of that nature. So that's what somebody came in and kind of really saw your business model and gave you and your partner a buy. It was just you and your partner, or you and your partner and your uncle, I believe, and you have some equity builders, right? Equity partners.
That's a great question. So my uncle, the way to describe my uncle, first of all, he passed away unfortunately in 2018. So right when we were just ramping up, he had an unexpected pass. But
Sorry to hear that.
The way to describe him, and thank you very much. The way to describe him is that he was very old school. He first of all, until his passing in 2018, he carried a flip phone from like literally 2005. He had a business card that only had the letter S on it because his name was Sammy, and on the back it had his number. There wasn't an email because he never had an email his entire life. And he was that old school. So when I told him about my idea of even building the truck site, or the website, I should say, he was interested to get the business, but he was not interested to pursue my idea of truckpark.com. And then eventually even to the application, once I started introducing him to the app of our idea, I should say, about the app, because the app came out in 2019, but he passed away in late 2018. He had nothing he didn't want anything to do with it. So it was me to take on that by myself in the very beginning of when he passed. And then eventually I'm sorry, I'm trying to think of all the dates here, but it was probably about 6 or 7 months later is when I met my business partner, Joshua.
Gotcha. Okay. And then so what happened from there? So the somebody came in and they bought y'all out, and that's how you did your first exit.
So that was the exit. That was September 2021 is when we officially exited. Of course, it was about a year in going through data rooms and going through the acquisition process, paperwork, and my gosh, was it a lot of work. We had two attorneys. We had our main attorney, which was a massive law firm called Perkins Coie, and then we had to hire an additional attorney just to do the closing. So it was a lot of time. But it was a fun process. I learned a ton. And I could tell you this, that by the time we did sell, we had about 15,000 daily active users. We were well into long-term parking with some of the largest retailers, Fortune 500 companies, doing a couple million in net for the truck parking. And then when we finally did sell our last day, which was September 24th, 2021, we had 680 secure truck parking locations on the platform in North America.
It fascinates me always. I deal with different businesses through the years. I do in the private. I'm getting into private equity. Ed's been in this industry for a long time with truck parking and things of that nature. But it's always exciting. So, I mean, for you to kind of go from the very beginning with the idea, and then the companies, I'm assuming that invested into you kind of brought a lot of these people to the table, and then you started kind of learning through the conversations, the meetings, things of that nature. I'm assuming that all this kind of came to pieces together. Is that pretty much how it happened?
Yeah, I mean, eventually we just became the experts in our space, right? The subject matter experts, and that's where everything just really started coming together for us. Just because we started building out, more products, first of all. And we started to get more, clout in the industry, if that's the best word. People started realizing how much good we were doing. We're solving a huge problem. 3.2 million truck drivers. Only at the time, it was 250,000 available spaces. It was a completely untapped, lopsided market. And as soon as we started making waves in the industry, people began to trust us. Fleets were interested to use our platform. Drivers were so excited that we were finally solving a solution that they've been literally on their hands and knees praying for somebody to fix for about 30 years.
Wow. Ed, I mean, what is anything that you can, because I know you've been in the truck parking and you were starting to, based off my understanding, some of the locations you have down here in Louisiana, that's when you started kind of playing. Did you know about Anthony's company back then when you were doing this?
No. So I worked for a group out of Hammond. We were buying truck stops. We purchased the truck stop in Avondale, Louisiana, and it's a nice big parking lot, but we had problems in that lot. It was a terrible situation. So they gave me the task of getting order and basically putting a plan together to turn the parking lot into a profit center. It was not even close. It was like herding cats on a daily basis. So I put together a program, sent it to the guys that I did the transaction with. They liked the program. And then I Googled truck parking to try to find a solution, a web-based solution, and how to drive over-the-road guys into our yard. And Anthony caught my attention because I lived in Chicago for 3 to 4 years where I met Matt. And Anthony's office was on South Wacker, right, Anthony? And so I saw his area code and I was like, well, this is going to be fun because I know where South Wacker is. I lived in Streeterville. I'm going to call up this guy and see what's going on with this. And so we hit it off. And we started with Anthony really just looking for trucks to come into the parking lot off of I-10 because that's a bit off the beaten path from I-10. You got to come across the UP Long Bridge, but 90 is a busy highway, right? So we had a decent business, but we used Anthony for the over the road guys initially. But to Anthony's point, we got tired of having checks bounce, and so we turned it over to Anthony completely. So we cut a deal, different structure between the over the road guys, and then Anthony took our monthlies as well, and we turned it over to truckpark.com. We had one guy that was kind of a geek, and no offense, Anthony, and he dialed into, because I'm a geek, he dialed into Anthony's program. So we had one key operator, this guy named Robert, and Robert really just kind of mastered the truckpark.com situation, and it solved the problem for us. And it was, after that, it was really kind of, we had to maintain the yard, we had to police the yard, sheriff the yard. Anthony gave us advice. His advice was stripe the yard, number your lot, and this was commitments we had to make. So we spent about $7,000 to $8,000 out the gate, but we believed in Anthony's program. So we restriped our entire yard, we numbered it, we allocated 20, 25 spots for Anthony, and then the rest were rentals, monthly rentals, because we had a healthy monthly rental business there. And we got tired of chasing money, and Anthony chased our money for us. And it was a lot nicer to get it ACH to the account other than, having, because I could tell you as an operator of truck stops for a big part of my career, there's always a conspiracy between the girl in the cashier booth running the fuel desk and a truck driver. It's always, hey, I'm gonna buy fuel, and for that you get free parking. Man, that's just a 20 slipped across the counter, and the guy goes down the road, buys the cheaper fuel, and you get a bunch of spare tires left in your yard because he's changing tires in the yard. So this took a big problem off our hands, because it took the organized crime situation out of it between the driver and the girls that worked the fuel desk. And so that was my introduction to Anthony's company. We went on and Anthony sold his business, and we actually wanted to get into this space, Matt Scales and I, and we actually called the company that bought Anthony and had discussions with them. Really, it just did not work well. So I happened to just dial Anthony's number up one day recently, and within the last year, and Anthony said, man, Shazam, my non-compete is over, and we got this thing called Finpark, and let's get to work. And so really that's how we got started up again, because of the job he did with us. Truck Park was a success. Truckpark.com was a big success for us. And so my natural call to Anthony was exactly as it was the first time. It was comfortable and it worked well. And so we got heavily involved with him. We're excited, to be part of Anthony's team.
So Anthony, you sold right around 2021 or 2022?
2021 is when we sold.
So if you don't mind, can I ask what was the exit number?
10 million.
Huh?
10 million.
Wow. Unbelievable. 30-some years old, started out. That's incredible. I mean, that's just a success story. I mean, you came across an idea, you stayed on it, and you stayed focused. You kept on getting better. You kept on meeting people. So with your exit, what I feel you kind of just stayed out of the industry for a little bit with your non-compete. And I think that if I remember right, you were doing some things with Zoom, or maybe some things of that nature, and that's 2 years. I can't remember what exactly were you doing those 2 years.
So in 2021 again, it was September 2021 when we sold, and from September to April of 2022 is when I transitioned with Relay Payments, which is the company that acquired us, and then in 2000. I'm sorry, it was probably the same year. So April 2022, I transitioned to a full-time consulting gig with a company out of Irvine, California. And that company is a transportation management system, which is pretty much technology all over again to help, this time, shippers, right? Giving tools to shippers to find qualified carriers. So I learned an entire new side of the business, which was really helpful into what we're doing here today at Finpark.
And then when I think somebody reached out to you from, which it was Finpark or Finlock Financial, I believe they reached out to you, but you were still kind of like not ready with the non-compete. And then when it was time, you kind of started with Finpark. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. So in late 2022, I got a call from a friend of mine named JD Redman. And at the time, or for a while now, he's been chief revenue officer of a company called VHub, which happens to be our sister company. And he said, hey, listen, I know you're in your non-compete until April or May of 2023, but I really need you, buddy. Like, I need you to come over and, start a truck parking division. Just basically do what you already did at Truck Park. But I really think that this is going to be huge if we can work together. I'm building out this marketplace that allows carriers to reposition trailers and rent trailers in real time, and adding truck parking is just icing on the cake. I would love for you to come over, and you and I can crush it together. And at the time I was like, well, in my non-compete, I literally can't even talk to you about parking. But it is something that I'm interested in because, again, it's a legacy business for me. I really continue to do the truck parking business because of my late uncle, especially when he passed away, and because we had such a good rapport. My uncle was like a second father to me, so I wanted to continue building in his name, and I still do that today. So when he had asked me, it was more than just asking me, hey, can you come over and help me out? It was more like, of course, once my non-compete is over, I'm going to go help and build this business because I'm going to continue on what my uncle did for me.
Yeah. Do y'all still own that parking lot, that with your uncle's parking lot, or did y'all just sell that also throughout the year?
He owned it until he passed, of course, and then my aunt, she just couldn't, operate it herself, so she had sold it, I believe, sometime in late 2019. Gotcha.
Okay. So I guess non-compete's over. You're talking to your friend. Y'all kind of come up with Finpark, and I know Jim part of Finpark already, or
Jim was part of the VHub, which is like the trailer repositioning marketplace. And then when JD had asked me to come over, I needed a team, and so Jim, because he was consulting, he was never full time with either VHub nor Finpark, but he was consulting. Then he was able to be hybrid and consult with both. And that's where Jim and I really became friends, is because we were talking every single day. He's the architect of the technology. I'm the one who needs to help him architect it because it's really, my dog and pony show. So at the end of the day, Jim and I got real close. We, got our feet wet, where he was like, I'm going to continue, helping you build out whatever product you need. I'll architect it. I will talk to the developers, and I will do all the works in the back end. You just do the front end. You build the business like you're used to. And that's how Jim and I became close.
Jim's like it's like a encyclopedia. It's just listening to him.
He really is.
Yeah.
Between him and Ed, it's like, geez. So here we are. Today's 2024. I got involved with Ed because I have a transportation business with crew changes. So I do crew changes for boats on the rivers. So I'm up and down from here to Texas to Arkansas on a weekly basis. Tomorrow I got to go somewhere, I'm not sure, but when Ed, we're working on an EV charging station concept, and he asked me if I would be interested in working with him and Matt on this concept with Finpark. When I started researching it, it was like, wow, this is pretty interesting. The more that I'm on the road at 10, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm seeing these trucks more and more, and it really kind of started dinging my brain. So I've been stopping at different locations that have parking. So that's where I kind of got involved with Ed and them. But it really is more and more I'm seeing it. It is the Airbnb of truckers. So from where Finpark is right now, based off my understanding, I know y'all have like 20, 30,000 plus signed up. I think it's just now starting to roll out. So y'all really kind of put this together in the last year. Am I correct? Where it's kind of starting to take that snowball?
Yeah, we spent time building the application, of course, and again, just the app part of it. We have a couple more products coming to market, which I'm excited about that Jim helped build as well. But yes, to answer your question, the app came out, or we went to market. Let's say we go to market in August. So it hasn't even been a full year yet where the app has been, live publicly and people have been using it. But just like any other business, the first year is always the hardest year because you have to rebrand. There's brand recognition, awareness, getting out in front of drivers, which is the hardest market, right? Again, going back to the total addressable market, it's 3.2 million truck drivers. Out of the 3.2 million, that's about, I should say the 3.2 million truck drivers are semi-trailers, right? 18-wheelers. There's about 11.2 million RVs, about 13 million box and straight trucks, and about 300,000 Sprinter vans. That's all in one market. So you just imagine you have to penetrate all of those millions of trucks out there. It takes some time, but you know what? It's a powerful tool, and I'm really excited to see it explode all over again.
No, it's exciting. I get excited every time we talk about it because it's like the very beginning of what you did back in 2013. And now you're at it with the experience you have, the technology now you have financial backing, plus you have really a great team. So what are y'all foreseeing, I guess, over the next 2 to 3, 4 years? Are y'all seeing this and I didn't really think about it from the RV perspective. So it's not just for truckers. It's actually for any type of RV or different place, people who want to store or park, and they can reserve those locations. And I know we're trying to create Pro Park, which is basically 150 to 200 spots to where people can reserve. So that's exciting. But that's really, I guess, what I'm starting to see. It's not just for truckers. It's really for anyone who's looking to park their vehicles and store their vehicles in a safe environment, just kind of like self-storage units in a way. Am I correct by saying that?
Mm-hmm. That's spot on. Anything I would say from Class 4 to Class 8 trucks, Class 4 starting again at your Sprinter vans. So anything that can hold cargo, right? Because you're not talking about your cars. That's a whole other space. It's very lucrative space, but that's not the space I'm in. What we're talking about is your Sprinter vans all the way up to your 18-wheeler trucks.
Right.
Rene, if I could just add, we had a great work session yesterday with Anthony on marketing, which, we have to do some more homework on our side, but the support we're getting from Finpark and from Anthony's parent company we're excited about that because that's going to really help us kind of dial in and up our marketing side, our game, right? We've got 5 lots in Louisiana that our goal is to really get those guys up and running. Because, Louisiana's a small state. There's a lot of truck stops in Louisiana, but they're really just big convenience stores because they want to do gambling, right? So although we've got a lot of opportunity, the spaces are small. I mean, lots down here are 5 acres, 50 parking spots. That's primarily the market you're going to hit. We have some 100, 150 spots. Avondale, we had 125 spots, but this is we're dealing in a regulatory environment down here, which that is a hurdle, barrier of entry hurdle right there as well, because everybody's concerned about anything they do is going to affect their gaming, their casino. So we're really going to push over the next couple of months to get these 4 lots with a family that's out of Texas. They got Vinton, New Orleans, 3 lots, 1 in Macomb and 1 in Tallulah. And one of the things that Anthony brought up, which is exciting, is because Anthony brought up his issue of throwing pizza parties for truck drivers, which is a great marketing tool that he's used. So these are a pizza party.
A pizza?
Yeah, a pizza. Pizza.
Oh, pizza.
Anthony's he's a big pizza guy.
Right.
Pizza party.
Yeah, pizza party. Yeah.
Come on. A pie. Come on. What are you talking
about? I heard pizza. I'm not saying pizza.
Hey. So, our push over the next couple of months is going to be working with Josh and with Anthony is going to be Joshua, is going to be driver engagement, going out, meet the drivers, sell the story, show them the app, teach them the app, and just personal one-on-one with drivers, because a driver can make you or break you. They can, if you meet them, you ingratiate yourself to them, you give them a good service, and Anthony can speak to this much greater than I, but a driver will take you down the road with him. And everybody he talks to in his driving social circle, man, that'll just start ultimately just evolving organically. And you'll have guys that you never met before that are on the app, but they came from some guy in New Orleans that you had not a pizza party, but maybe a crawfish boil or a barbecue in a parking lot. So we're really excited to start the driver engagement program on a local level, because we can, small market Louisiana, we can test it and we can control it. And then we can take it to California, where we have a rep, and to Oklahoma. But the marketing session we had with Anthony yesterday and his team was really spot on and really was phenomenal. Very thankful for that, Anthony.
Yeah, your website, Finpark.io is incredible. So I've only gone through some of it, and I downloaded the app a while back, so I've got to get you a little bit more used to it. But it really is an incredible concept. So, so I know right now with Ed and Matt, I know we're in the process of trying to do the marketing. You're trying to learn more about that, and so different ideas are coming up. So what you're seeing right now, from your perspective, Anthony, are you dealing with just individuals like us in different parts of the states that are wanting to do things like this, or is it just still kind of like infancy stage where you're still getting it out there for individuals like us? I mean, I'm just kind of curious. Are we one of the beginners with you in this concept?
Yeah, we're dealing with everybody. So if you're saying from a standpoint or perspective of an operator, we have operators that are mom and pops that might own one or two locations. And then we also have parking lot owner operators on our platform that have, 20 to 30 locations. Mm-hmm. And they have, they're usually regional operators. They'll own a certain market, for example, like Atlanta, Georgia. And they might have 15 to 20 different parking lots within that portfolio in Atlanta, Georgia, but it's not necessarily mean it's nationwide. But yes, we have about, if I remember the math correctly, it's like 325 secure truck parking lots to date, and around 25,000 overall spaces.
Wow.
Yep. And that's only in 8 months that we've done that. So again, it took my business, Truck Park, 7 years to get to 680. And we're already in 8 months at 325 locations.
Wow, incredible.
Hey, you guys never saw me. I wasn't here. You never saw me.
Is that where all that sound's coming from?
I can neither confirm nor deny.
Look, it's New Orleans. You're always going to hear a siren. So, yeah. So, Rene, what? Yeah. Yeah, it's like being in Chicago. You never get so far from the siren.
It'd be funny if the squad just pops in there and then brings one of y'all.
Hey, the good news is,
hey, we're in the middle of a podcast, officer.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, but think of the numbers.
I don't run. See, the good news is, since I don't drink anymore, I don't worry about running. So that's why I heard a siren. I just sit still now. A couple of years ago, I'd have been out the door. Hey, see ya. But Rene, one of the things said about Finpark and the app and the dashboard, that application is so robust for an operator. So when Anthony speaks of operator, he's speaking of a truck stop or parking lot operator, right? So it's a marketplace. You got drivers on one side of the marketplace, and then you have operators, lot owners, right? So a lot owner can be, being someone who's used a program like this, a lot owner can be, and Anthony, please, jump in when you want, can be as engaged through the dashboard as they want, or they can be as hands-off as they want. Because, if they don't want to be in the dashboard, they don't want to do reporting, they don't want to see all the gee whiz that Jim and his team have built into Finpark. It's like we were in Avondale. We weren't that engaged as owners. We just got checks from Anthony. Or on the other hand, if you've sat through a demo and you see the power of this app and the dashboard side for the operator, really there's really nothing out there that I believe competes with us. It's a very robust program, and the application is simple for a driver to use, which is the other side of the marketplace, is the driver and the simplicity to download the app, sign up, and go. So that's what I like about the program. As an operator, we had the option of either being engaged or not, and we chose to not be. So, anyway, Anthony, I'll leave it up to you for further.
You got a question? I know I have a question. Is that you, Andy? You have a question?
Yeah, that's me. Hey, so for the app, what's that?
I see a goatee. What comes up in the chat?
Oh, my hat, you're saying?
Ignore that. Ignore the man behind the green curtain.
Goatee wannabe.
It's a long story. Anyway.
All right, we get it.
My question is, obviously this is geared towards the trucking industry, but as I mentioned earlier, I think before you came on there, Anthony, that I do a lot of traveling, and I have a travel trailer. So I'm always looking I'd rather stay at a truck stop with that overnight anyway. But so is this an app that's solely geared towards truckers, or is this open market to anybody? And if so, what would be the benefits of a non-trucker to get the app?
I would really, if you have an RV, it would probably make more sense. I shouldn't say it's the parking lot owners usually don't allow cars or anybody just coming off the street to stay at the locations. It sounds like most of the time you would want to stay at these locations because they're, one, very secure, right? So they're fence and perimeter, they're gate managed. Some of them have manned guards. Some of them have wonderful driver lounges that have 50-inch TV with nice and comfortable couches, bathrooms, showers, food, vending machines, the whole works. So I agree. Anybody coming off the street would love to stay at one of these locations. Unfortunately, I think they're just trying to, have the truck drivers have the best experience. The truck drivers, hauling these big 53-foot haulers around that they gotta, twist and turn, and the axle can only go so far before it falls off the trailer. And so having, people off the street with cars would probably just be pure chaos in the yards. But I can hear what you're saying. I think it would be great to be a part of something that's so cool.
Well, I think we might have an idea there, Anthony. Someone wants to get Finpark going and might do this.
Well, I can tell you, Anthony, that the lots in New Orleans with Tajani, we are replacing an RV app, right? So he's using an RV app currently to do his parking lot maintenance, right? Or his sales, his reservations, excuse me. So Finpark is actually replacing an RV application to control his yard, do his reservations, and book his drivers in. So there is a cross-pollination between those two. But being in the operating space, we would probably not want to have RVs in our yard. Definitely not trailers. So Andy, I'm sorry, you're not welcome on that yard with your trailer. But for the reason that Anthony's saying is that when you commingle those vehicles with a truck, it's just could be bad juju.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in. We're going to end the show now.
Yes.
Just kidding.
Yeah. See ya. Yeah. Early dinner. So I think, but that you bring up a good point, Anthony and Rene, if you don't mind, if we could just kind of talk a little bit about the truck parking lot opportunity, building lots, and development.
We got 10 minutes, whatever y'all want to talk about. So you want to spin that off, Anthony, or?
Sure. So truck parking. Okay. So actually, before I jump right into it, when you're referring to truck parking yard, are you asking me to share? I guess what are you asking me to share about a truck parking yard? The mechanics of it, how to build one.
Well, yeah. So Anthony, our goal is to not only be part of Finpark, but ProPark's goal, of course, is to build our own parking lots. And to your point of describing a parking lot for a driver, that's a great description, right? Secure, fenced, lots of lighting, 2,000, 2,500 square foot building, showers, TVs, comfortable chairs, vending, gated access. So part of what we're looking to do, Rene, through our relationship with Anthony and just my relationship in trucking and construction of truck stops, right, is to get away from the fuel side and just be a parking lot builder, right, and have lots around the country, because you want to be on both sides of the marketplace.
And so with that said, we're looking for at this time individuals who own property that's off the interstate, somewhere around 5 to 10 acres, I believe, correct? Or investors who are interested in working with us on that. Am I correct on that, Ed?
Yeah, we're always looking. We have property opportunities in Oklahoma right now, property opportunities in Plaquemine Parish, in Orleans Parish, in Jennings, Louisiana. So yes, we're always looking for those opportunities. But I'm gonna turn it over to Anthony. I mean, Anthony, those guys they talk to a lot of folks that have their heads wrapped around that same opportunities, searching that same opportunity with development of truck parking lots. So yeah, so I just wanted to see what Anthony's thoughts are on that.
Well, I'll say this. I'll preface and say that the industrial asset, which is the truck yard, also known as an ISF, which is industrial service facilities, which could be a mixed bag of warehouse, terminals, distribution centers, truck yards, and also truck bays as well, is all fit underneath this terminology that is widely known and used now by institutionalized investors, smart money. And so this is, and I always say this, those who own the parking asset, or those who own the asset, let's just make it simple, and those who own the technology will own the market. So yes, building out a truck parking location is essentially probably the best thing you can do right now in this space. Even like I said, institutionalized money is coming in the space. You have more mom and pops and more larger operators starting to assemble than you've ever seen before. It doesn't matter because we're not even scratching the surface. There are still 3.2 million truck drivers just in the U.S., around 800,000 truck drivers in Canada searching for parking on a daily basis out of 315,000 overall spaces available recorded to date in 2024. So until we get to 3.2 million and be a one-to-one market, there's still a lot of room to grow for everybody. And that's what I would say about truck parking.
There you go.
Deeper in granularity later on, probably off the call, offline, et cetera. But this is an amazing market. You're going to be doing a huge service for our unsung heroes.
Interesting. And Andy, you had a question before we get closer to ending up?
I do. One last question. Since I was clearly discriminated against, what if I identify as a truck?
If you identify as a truck, I have nothing to say.
I got nothing else.
Hey, I'm good with it. I identify as a Tesla, so
now you're EV, you're green.
I'm green.
So it is really interesting. It's because from a real estate investor standpoint, like you're saying, there's a lot of people looking for what is a good investment these days. What is the next thing when it comes down to like here in New Orleans, a lot of people were investing into Airbnbs. We used to rent our house out of Airbnb, and things changed, right? And it's just things are changing in the real estate market. A lot of office buildings are just sitting there pretty much vacant, and it's either they're going to be converted into condos, retail spaces, things of that nature underneath. I'm seeing that this, as like I keep on coming back, is this is like the Airbnb for truckers, and you're providing a tool to where if individuals are interested in converting large locations into just parking lot and a small building like what we're doing, it is a great real estate play. There's no mess. Truck goes out. You don't have to wash nothing, clean nothing, change no towels or anything. Is that what you're saying? Pretty much.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what it is.
It's better than mini storage. Rene, Anthony said had a great term, smart money, right? Smart money. One of the things you need to be smart about that I'm learning from seeking out these locations for constructing parking lots is you got to be smart about what's coming down the line, because a spot that looks like not so much today, when you kind of get up and fly over and see what's coming down the line in regard to intermodal and different railheads and yada yada, that little lot that's not so much today could be something, all that in a bag of chips 5 years from today. So and it's an organically and accretively growing business. That's all I'll have to say about that.
Well, Anthony, I know you got to be jacked. I know you got to be excited. It's just it's another run for you, but I feel this one's going to be probably the bigger play than the first one.
It's awesome.
That's the goal, right? Try maybe awesome. 3 or 4x this one and see where that goes.
That's awesome. So I'm excited. I'm excited about having you on tonight and just learning more. And I hope we can rejoin again, because I would like to try to keep on having these conversations on Finpark. And I know Ed and I had Jim on a couple of weeks ago. We have you on tonight. So our goal is to kind of keep on doing more of this to help kind of build the awareness, I guess, of the truck parking issues and things. So again, I appreciate your short-term notice on tonight and coming on board, having you on the show. And I look forward to learning more of what you're doing, and hopefully we can meet up sometime soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, gentlemen. Before we leave,
Renee.
Yes, sir. Before we leave, after we close the show, don't go anywhere. We'll hang out in the how do they call it, the green room in the business or something like that. I don't know. Anyway,
we have to call it. We have to call that the pit room or something like that. After we have to make up some. Hey, y'all stay behind for a couple of cocktails and drinks.
That's right. In the pimp
Thank
juice
you very
room.
much, Rene Manfre, for what your passion. Again, our show, our passion is your passion. Every week I try my best to bring individuals to you to give you more knowledge, awareness of everything going on across the world. Bye-bye.
Great job.